Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Federal officials are reeling from a Senate subcommittee investigation that revealed how prison officials, from wardens to corrections officers to prison chaplains, have preyed on women inmates in federal prisons. The report will make your stomach turn. We'll discuss that this morning. Also, U.S. and African officials meeting in Washington this week pledged to work toward closer economic integration and welcome several major announcements of new investments and business deals from companies including Cisco, Pfizer, and Visa. But first, the shocking suicide of Stephen Twitch Boss, the famous DJ who led Ellen's talk show. We are still shocked by the death of Twitch. Law enforcement sources told TMC first that Twitch wife Allison Holker ran into an LAPD station on Tuesday, and she was frantic because she said Twitch had left home without his car, something that was not like him at all. A short time later, around 11:15 a.m., paramedics got a call for a medical emergency at a Los Angeles hotel, and they found Twitch there dead from apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Ellen and so many others started to mourn and deliver statements regarding the death of Twitch, Ellen's longtime DJ and co-executive producer. Twitch became the co-executive producer just 2 years ago. The show, of course, ended in May after some controversy surrounding Ellen herself. Ellen says she's heartbreaking over his passing. She says Twitch was pure love and light. He was my family, and I loved him with all my heart. I will miss him. Please send your love and support to Allison and his beautiful children, Wesley, Maddox, and Zaya. Allison Holker said that her husband lit up every room he stepped into. He valued family, friends, and community above all else, and leading with love and light was everything to him. She said he was the backbone of our family, the best husband and father, and an inspiration to his fans. To say he left a legacy would be an understatement, and his positive impact will continue to be felt. She says, I am certain there won't be a day that goes by that we won't honor his memory. What a tragic, tragic death. We are joined now, the publisher of Our Weekly out in Los Angeles, Ken Miller. Ken, how are you this morning?
I only wish I was the publisher of the Great Our Weekly. That is my dear friend Natalie Cole
Natalie Cole
and David Miller,
and David Miller.
who are publisher there. So uh, I am the honored publisher of Inglewood Today
Inglewood
here
today.
in
Look at that.
California. So I
See,
so
that's what
greatly
happens, Ken,
appreciate this
when you stay
conversation.
away too long. You got to come visit us more.
Well, you know, you can only visit when you get that call. You
Okay.
can't just randomly call into a great show like this and and anticipate that. Yep, I'm getting ready to jump right on the air. I mean, because the line is so long to get in with you, Stacy. You've done such a great job with the NNPA and more particularly branding our institution. So I'm happy to be here.
Ken, it's a privilege to have you. Ken, I mean, tragedy upon tragedy upon tragedy. This is sad in every way, and it's also, Ken, and maybe you can speak to this too. I don't know what you guys are planning to do. You guys are always Johnny in the spot out there in LA with
Hmm.
your coverage, but you never know what someone's going through, right? Because just the day before this happened, Twitch was posting videos with his family. They were dancing, they were laughing. You just never know, right?
Well, I think this really speaks to the reality of the life we live, right? You know, we hear all of these cliches, you know, not the minute, not the hour, you know, not the day of the week. And when something like this happens, I think it's a vivid reminder to turn to your loved one, your wife, your brother, your sister, your friend, and just tell them how much you love them because you don't know. You know, he lived his life to the fullest. This was a person who was, at the forefront and at the height of everything that he set out to achieve in his life. He was revered, and he left us with a legacy that won't be replicated anytime soon. And he also left us with with a standard of how to live your life with an enormous amount of God blessed talent, uh, and dignity and pride. And so I think we can take that away from this and just remember, particularly as we're in the holiday season, we just got past Thanksgiving and we're getting ready to go in the Hanukkah and the Christmas holidays. And soon we're going to be, if many of us are fortunate enough, refreshed with a brand new reprieve of a year. And so I think this is yet again another one of those just um, vivid. It's just a vivid reminder of how precious and delicate life is.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter your status in life. Once again, we see someone who, with all this fame, loved by so many, seemingly happy, seemingly wealthy, but it does not come down to that, Ken. Wealth, fame, that doesn't protect folks from tragedies like this, right?
Well, Paul Mooney, the late Paul Mooney, was one of the great comedians and a person who I so admired, not just for his talent as a comedian, but for his intellect, particularly as related to African American history. And he said, "Look, you will never see a Brinks truck follow a hearse. So no matter how much money you have, when you're gone, it's gone."
Yeah.
And so yeah, the irony and the reality of the journey that we're on, Stacy, is that we lose people every day, every hour, every second. We only get a chance to reflect or comment or recognize those that come to us in a sphere that's a public sphere of entertainment and that sort of thing. So, again, it's just a vivid reminder of how precious this journey is that we have the privilege to live.
Yeah. And for those listening, the 988 is a 988 suicide and crisis lifeline. It's a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the United States. They are committed to improving crisis services and advancing suicide prevention by empowering individuals, advancing professional best practices, and building awareness. If you or someone you know may be struggling with suicidal thoughts, you can call the U.S. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, either that 888 number, I'm sorry, 988 number, or you can call 1 800 273 8255. It's 1 800 273 8255 anytime or day, or you can chat online. Crisis text line also provides free 24/7 confidential support via text message to people in crisis when they dial 741 741. Again, that's 741 741. Thoughts will continue to be with the family of Twitch. Ken, also in the news, the Federal Bureau of Prisons employees have frequently subjected women incarcerated in federal prisons across the country to sexual abuse, which the agency then did not properly investigate, according to a scathing new Senate investigation. The report itself was released this week. It's the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. They painted a ghastly portrait of the treatment of female prisoners and the response by the federal agency tasked with their custody. A bipartisan investigation found that male Bureau of Prisons employees, wardens, even the ministers in the prison sexually abused female prisoners in at least 2/3 of the facilities that held them over the last decade. In some cases, the report said horrific abuse stretched out for months or even years, and management failures enabled continued sex abuse, with some senior prison officials among those abusing women in custody. Just earlier this month, a warden from Dublin um, in Ohio went to prison. Systematically sexually assaulting female inmates. Corrections officers in Florida, New Jersey, across the country have been imprisoned because of sexual assault of women. And we're talking only on the federal level here, Ken. It's a rampant thing. Prison chaplains have been uh, accused of, some convicted of sexual assault as well. They are not protecting women in prison, Ken.
Did they protect us in slavery? did, uh, did we get protected in slavery? And I think what we're seeing is a real life replication of what's the institution of slavery actually was. I'd be interested to find out. I know I could just say off the top of my head that I would imagine that most of those wardens were not African Americans, and I would be intrigued to learn how many of those victims were minorities.
Hmm.
And but it's the mindset. It's the mindset um, of the institution of slavery that allows for these atrocities to continue. As you indicated, you said we haven't heard anything about state and state prisons, but prisons in and of themselves are replications of the institution of slavery. And those people who were responsible for creating these replications of institution of slavery, uh, those who end up going in there operating them, whether it's the guards, whether it's the wardens, that's the mindset that they have.
Hmm.
We talk about racism a lot of times, and racism, is not just it's an institutional ordeal.
Hmm.
It's not something that you hear that Paul Mooney used to say. I have a couple of black friends. That's not what racism is all about. Racism is a mindset, and the institution of slavery is a mindset. And here in California, we have our state officials who are still digging into reparations.
Right.
Because the reality of it is, we as a people were kidnapped. We didn't ask to come to America. We were kidnapped. And so to say that there's not some reparations that we deserve for being here is absolutely it's beyond comprehension. So when you see, you look at the numbers, Stacy. I mean, look, you can't make this stuff up,
Yeah.
that the numbers of African Americans who are in prison or in federal presentation in federal prisons on all levels, the majority of them are African Americans.
And what you're looking at now, Carolyn Richardson is one of the victims here, speaking out at the Senate hearing. She was one who said, "I was sentenced and put in prison for choices I made," but she said, "I was not sentenced to prison to be raped and abused." And yeah, her testimony was so powerful. She talked about, "Look, I deserve to be in prison. I did what I did, but I did not deserve this, Ken." And you're right. And Brianne Moore, another one that testified. And so you're seeing the faces right there, and hearing the voices of the victims. And as you pointed out, African Americans are probably, we didn't get, they didn't break down the demographics, black, white, but who they brought to Congress were African American women.
Yeah, you're not going to break down the demographics when it's black people. You know, I mean, we talk about prison and you talk about wardens. I mean, anyone. I look. I rest assured that anyone in our audience right now has had a member of their family at some point in time go to jail or go to prison. And so, you know, these women, they're accepting a responsibility for laws that were implemented by individuals and legislators who never looked like them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and look, there's an eye-opening moment that's occurring in America. And this eye-opening moment that's occurring in America, more specifically for black people, is that um, we don't we look at the immigrations we look at immigration and how our borders are being flooded with immigrants, and seemingly, you know, there's only one party that's fixated on this issue, and this party is fixated on this issue for all of the wrong reasons, mind you. But the reality of it is this: we are becoming more and more and more of the shrinking minority in this country. And
Mm.
as we become more and more and more of the shrinking minority in this company, we have less representation in this country. And so it's incumbent upon all of us as black people at some point in time to wake up and say, look, we're all we have, and we have to unify, and we have to not just use our minds and our power to go out and protest, but we got to use our money. We've got enough people in this country who have money, who can make an impact, on people just like you and I. But again, it's the mindset and the institution of wanting to belong in a place that you're never going to be accepted. Only if you have a green ticket to get in there, and then once you have a green ticket to get in there, the message is, hey, you got to be more like us and less like them. And if you be more like us and less like them, you got to do more for us and less for them. Uh, there's some eye-opening moments that are occurring, and I thank God for you, Stacy, that you have now a platform to enlighten many of us about how important this is. So kudos to you. Kudos to my dear friend, my mentor, my confidant, Ben Chavis. You know, for a lot, for having the vision and the foresight to say, you know what, we've been doing the same thing as the NMPA and getting the same results for so many years. I am going to bring this brother in, and I'm going to allow for him to exercise his talent on our platform. And a lot of this stuff wouldn't have been brought out without you. A lot of the articles that we get into our newspapers would not be in our newspapers without you. Without
Well,
you.
well,
So
you know, the
I'm grateful.
NMPA has a major purpose. Maintains a major purpose. The Black Press of America maintains a major purpose. And for Greer and I on this show, it's about making sure people understand how vital the Black press is and remains even after 195 years. You know, Ken, you can tell the story of how, you know, for decades, you know, throughout our lifetime, throughout the Black press's lifetime, there have been forces against the Black press. There's still so many forces against the Black press. I know you can talk about that well. So it's just a privilege for myself, for Greer, to be in. You know, you guys allow us to have this platform. We just want our publishers to know, to remind them it's here and it's ours. It's the NMPA's. It's the Black Press's platform, and it's so vital that we have this front facing, uh, really our biggest, you know, public facing platform is Let It Be Known.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And look, Uh, you and Britt, you talk about how privileged you guys are. We as publishers, and I've been involved in this industry for 45 years of my life, I'm privileged. I'm privileged. It's not just a given. But with this privilege comes an enormous amount of responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the amount of responsibility is to the institution of the National Newspapers Publishers Association. So for all of our publishers out there, for
Yep.
those of us who get, some of us who may get a few more dollars than the next one, some of us who have a greater circulation than those who are just starting out, some of those who, for whatever reasons, think that they are bigger than some of the others, we're all one.
Yep.
We're all one.
That's that
And
song, right? Frankie
it's that
Beverly.
song. Yeah. And the moment we forget that we're all one, the moment we start infighting and doing things to destroy the own institution that we have, it's on us.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's on us. I'm often reminded, Don King is another one of my great mentors and confidants and friends. And he often reminds me of the Willie Lynch doctrine. And when I bring up the Willie Lynch doctrine to some of my friends and colleagues, and well, it's a self-sustaining doctrine that was written for slave owners, but it's applicable to us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
applicable to us. And when do we get to a point to say, you know what, man, our our differences cannot divide us.
Yep.
Our differences cannot divide us. And no matter what it is that you're going through, no matter what it is that you've experienced, I know that unless I understand that, I will experience that too, whether it's success or tragedy. And so, uh, for us to unify now, at this moment, at this hour, is it's critical mass for Black people in America. You
Yeah.
know, I yeah, go ahead.
Cheryl Smith of the Texas Metro News. She writes in, she says, "We all suffer when a few act in a way counter to why we were established." And I think there's certainly a lot of truth to that, in which, again, Ken, as you were saying, uh, banding together, there's nothing, when we are together, no opponent can defeat us.
No, and look, when you look at other groups, right? When you look at other groups, um, it's ironic that yesterday I had a Zoom meeting with Dr. Chavis and some other members, and I thought about January 6th. I thought about the insurrection of January 6th, and while they all banded together for probably the most devastating reason democracy could ever have, because they banded together, it was almost successful.
Hmm.
Because they banded together, it was almost successful. And so, the key here in all of this is that, you know there's no I in team. There's no
Yeah.
I in team. And when you bandy together, just as if you bandy together for a bad cause, if you bandy together for the right cause, you have a great opportunity to be successful. And I think that that's what you know, look, this institution has to be passed along to our kids. You know, we live in a society now to where, our kids don't communicate physically anymore. None of us communicate physically anymore. How many times, Stacy, have you went out to a restaurant, or have you ventured out of the office, and before you could get into your Lyft or your Uber or the vehicle that you're driving, you were more preoccupied with your cell phone than you was anything else around you.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm on
Yep.
this show on my cell phone, and so I would like one day if the NNPA can institute a national no cell phone day,
That
to
would be
where
awesome.
to where we can actually be responsible for physically speaking to someone
Yeah.
in person.
I'm an advocate. I have a sizable family. I'm an advocate of at the dinner table, no phones, no phones at the dinner table. Just family talk. I'm a big advocate of that. So you're right. That would be just phenomenal to do a no cell phone, no electronics day. How about that?
That would be great too. But see, if you don't have a cell phone, most of the time you're not gonna have any electronics. Especially in the sphere of being around family, being around friends. I mean, look, I go to dinner sometimes with my wife. I go to dinner sometimes with our family, and everybody at the dinner table is on their cell phone. Everybody at the dinner table is on their cell phone. I have a sister-in-law who's a doctor, and we have family dinners every Sunday at her house. And she says we all have ADD because we can't have a unified conversation about anything. We'll turn on the television and say, okay, we're going to watch this movie. While the movie is on, there's 10 conversations in the room with three different people. You can't make this stuff up. And so you know, it's like I remember when this whole notion came about that newspapers are dead. Well, and I said back then, I said, look, don't believe us. Oh no, newspapers are dead. People are not reading anymore. And then the advent of Twitter, the advent of Facebook, the advent of all of these different elements in our society, which essentially are media. They're
Hmm.
media. There's no journalistic integrity anymore. If you could string together, a 50-word tweet, then there's your new journalist right there. And it's sad. And it's
Yeah.
sad. And if we believe, I've often had this odd, just this odd premonition that once they destroy all of the black press, they will then take all of that data. They will take all of that information. They will take all of that history and they will utilize it for themselves.
Well, it's sometimes it's called beating them to the punch, right? Because we gotta bring some of that talent back. I really enjoy the fact that, for one example, the Washington Informer was able to bring Misha Green back into the fold. Misha, longtime black press writer for the Afro. She went to the Baltimore Sun mainstream paper. And now she's back as the managing editor of the Washington Informer. So she went out and got some intel and came back for us. How about that? That's what we need. They did that to us, right? Didn't they do that to us
Exactly. They
in the
did.
civil, particularly in the civil rights era, right? They came and they took all of they tried to pilfer they did pilfer the black press during the civil rights era, during the Vietnam War as well.
Indeed. And kudos to my girl, with the Washington Informer uh, who has the resources to bring that kind of talent back, right? And for that kind of talent to recognize that, look, if I'm not doing this in a sphere that is going to impact someone who looks like me, who acts like me, who walks like me, who is essentially a replication of me, who am I going to do that for? I remember when I was 18 and my mom I was hired at the Sentinel at 18 years old, right out of high school. This was at a time when, at the time, I was the youngest person to ever be hired at the history of the Los Angeles Sentinel. And so my mother wanted me to go to college. I go to college. LA City College at the time had one of the finest broadcasting school. It was one of the finest broadcasting schools in the country, whether 2 year or 4 year. And so I remember being in class and one of my professors telling me, he says, Ken, why are you here? I said, well, I'm here to get a degree. He says, so, but you're already working in the industry. I said, I know, but I still want to get my degree. He says, forget about the degree. Go out and get the experience in the industry. If you stick around here long enough, once we get finished with you, you're going to be a carbon copy of everything else that we have. You have an opportunity to be unique and be able to experience some things that I can't. That once I impart my experience on you, you're just going to be another assembly line media person. And this guy was white. Bob Staley was white. He didn't have to tell me that. And and I listened to that. And it's allowed for me to have um, a level of independence that a lot of people don't have. I mean, look, when you see journalists today, if you look at any news channel, you look at any newspaper, and you pick up and you read any article, and you pick up something else, you're going to see a variation of that article with the same seasoning that the other articles have. You
Hmm.
know, when I was coming up in the industry, they said that you had to be unbiased, that you could not
Right.
have an opinion. That if you had an opinion, it wasn't real journalism. Now, if you don't have an opinion, you can't. Nobody. You don't have any depth and weight at all.
Yeah.
So I think way back then, that's what my professor Bob Staley was telling me. He was like, go out and be able to be unique and have your own signature on the work that you do. And now everybody, I mean, it's all about this myriad of opinions, and none of those opinions are ever based on fact or
Yeah.
research or any of that.
Yeah. Well, I remember Ken, my college professor, the first day he stood in front of the class, he said, some of you, he says, only going to be a few of you who graduate in 4 years. Some of you might take 5, some might take 6. He said, but the bottom line is there are too many of you here that are going to be chasing the guys. You'll be chasing the girls. The girls, you'll be chasing the guys.
Wow.
He was absolutely right because I was there chasing the girls. So, so with that, Ken, we really appreciate you um, coming all the way from Los Angeles this morning. Um, it's early. Ken is just as he's just as vibrant as if it was like 5 p.m. It's like 5 a.m. for him, but he's as vibrant as it is if it was 5 p.m. So Ken, we really appreciate you, the distinguished publisher of Inglewood today. Ken
Yes,
Miller,
indeed. Yes,
we
indeed.
thank you so much for joining the NNPA's Let It Be Known. And thank you all for watching. And we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, Ken.